Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole crew styling when we step out of the car. Bouncers lift the rope and the crowd goes off. 20 shots to the table, we don't even hit the bar.
I want to welcome back our audience and our listeners here to another collaboration of Inspicio Arts with the Florida International University Ratcliffe Art and Design Incubator. Welcome back, Ray.
Thank you, Maggie. That was easy for you to say.
So let's talk about Joyce Tenneson, right? Did I say her name right?
Correct.
So, you know, she's a visionary photographer. I guess we'll define what that means for our audience, but you know, her work has been published in books, magazines, Time, Life, Newsweek, New York Times. She's an author. One of, I guess one of her books, of her 16 books, the bestseller Wise Women was part of an NBC series. You know, we're celebrating Women's History Month in March, as we historically do. So let's talk about what inspires us, you know, what is inspirational about Joyce?
Joyce, I think what's inspirational about her is that she created a unique vision using a camera. And so when you look at her photographs, they don't look like anybody else's photographs. They have a very ethereal quality to them. And when you look at them, it's a mystery. Is, you know, how did she do that? And so that's one of the things that we discussed in the interview. And another piece in terms of connections to Women's History Month is that most of her work has been photographing women. And it started when she met a woman on a subway and became friends with her. And she kind of became her muse because she made tons of photographs of this particular woman. And then later in life, she started, and this woman was young at the time. And later in life, she started making photographs of women from the age of 50 on up. And one of the things that you see when you look at her work is it has this kind of pale, creamy yellow light to it. And you wonder how she did that. And also she has unusual body positioning and shapes that are created by the body. And what she told me she did is that she creates almost like a movie set for the person to be in, and then basically just takes a picture of that. So a lot of the work is in creating the environment in which the person is going to be, including dressing them and, you know, putting jewelry on them and all that. So it's very much like a movie in that way. And one of the things that she used is the large format Polaroid camera. So there are a number of photographers that were selected by Polaroid to use this huge dimension camera that prints out on big, you know, instead of the little things that come out of a handheld Polaroid, that comes out on big sheets of photographic paper. And so she used that for a lot of her work. And that again, she's working in a universe where only a few people were allowed into. And then another element of her work is she did the same treatment with landscapes, where she created the same kind of light. So so she's very much a pioneer, and her approach to what she's doing is very feminist and very engaging.
So let's talk a little bit about, you know, the visionary photography aspect of it. Is that kind of what it means when she sets up these people, like you mentioned, in kind of a movie set? Is that the definition for it, or can you define it for our audience?
Well, I think she was bucking, among other things. I mean, obviously people have been doing still lifes and things like that from the beginning of photography, especially when it was with the early cameras, you couldn't just run around and take photos. In fact, I have an old friend named, or people correct me and say I should call him a longtime friend, named Joel Meyerowitz, who's in his 80s now. And he used to shoot with an antique Deerdorf camera, where he put the hood over his head.
Yes.
And there was a plate that he would pull in and out. And getting the picture was just taking the lens cap off and exposing the plate to what's in front of it. And as a result, he created images that were very atmospheric. You could almost see the air move because the exposures were very long. And I'm trying to bring him to Miami, by the way, and do a big thing on Miami Beach, which I'll tell you about another time. But when Joyce started making photographs, what was very much in vogue was street photography. In fact, the Miami History Museum, I think, has an annual exhibition of street photography, and that's where you're just walking down the street and try and capture the moment. So she was bucking that trend and going back to this, still life moment, where even though there's a person in it, still life. And that's very similar to when abstract expressionism was the style that was in vogue in the 50s and 60s, and even into the 70s. And then all of a sudden, the pop artists started making paintings of images of representational pieces. And there was art realism and stuff like that. So she was very much in that kind of mode of bucking the trends and creating her own voice and image.
So what can young women that are aspiring to do something similar take away from some of these conversations and her career in general?
I think when you look at our interview, you'll see when she just tells her stories, you get a feeling for how disciplined she is and how organized she is about her approaches and what a perfectionist she is. And does not settle for something that doesn't reach the heights that she's aiming for.
Excellent. So is there anything else you want to add before we sign off?
No, because I know that your next meeting is more important than this one. So.
I'm just back to back with things and just trying to catch up, but I welcome the opportunity for everybody to follow Inspicio Arts across all platforms, as well as the Florida International University Ratcliffe Art and Design Incubator.
Okay, Maggie, I look forward to seeing you next time. There will be more women this month that we post on the website.
Yes.
Celebrating women is the thing I enjoy doing most. And so you'll see it on Inspicio Arts website.
Yeah, if I could just add a tease at the end, we promoted the podcast. All 3 seasons of them feature numerous women across different disciplines, industries, all talking about their projects and the growing tech ecosystem and their role as we kind of go into this new virtual reality.